14th chapter, please. Traveling with Jesus, and he turned and said to them, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost to see whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it will begin to ridicule him, saying, 'This fellow began to build and was not able to finish.' Or what king, going out to wage war against another king, will not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If he cannot, then, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So therefore, none of you can become my disciples if you do not give up all your possessions." This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You may be seated. Well, I will tell you this morning that becoming a pastor was not always the path I was on. When I graduated from college, I graduated with a degree in arts administration, which means my training was to be a museum curator or a symphony manager or a theater administrator or a concert promoter. And it was that last one that I particularly had my heart set on. At the end of my college career, I was very fortunate to be able to get an internship with a company called Northwest Releasing, which produces concerts all over the country. And in that capacity, I was able to produce a number of high visibility concerts. The Beach Boys, Seals and Crofts, John Denver, Bonnie Raitt, Chuck Mangione, Bill Withers, Dave Loggins, to name a few. It was an absolutely amazing experience for a young person, probably for any person. And it's one that I wanted to continue for a lifetime. Until, that is, I met Peter Nero and Fleetwood Mac. Peter Nero, so enormously talented, a brilliant pianist and composer. He appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show, I think, 11 or 12 times, and on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson almost as many times. He won 2 Grammy Awards because he was so talented, but Peter Nero also happened to be one of the most rude and abusive people I have ever known in my life, especially towards women. And negative, oh my heavens. Nothing was right, everything was wrong, not a single thing he could ever say anything good about. And then there was Fleetwood Mac, whose music I love to this day, by the way. They turned out to be the personification of everything that I would never want my kids ever to be. They were disrespectful, they were foul-mouthed, they were deeply, deeply involved in drugs, and about as nasty as you could possibly be toward those who were working hard to make them look and sound good. The lighting engineers, the sound engineers, instrument technicians, stagehands, and yes, producers. How hard can it be to at least be a little bit nice, a little bit kind, a little bit respectful toward people? But no, that was not in their makeup. They were nice to no one. It was actually my encounter with Fleetwood Mac that turned me away from my dream to be a concert promoter and forced me into a real heart-to-heart with myself about what my values in life were, what I should stand for and what I should stand against, and what were the most important things that I should be doing with this one and only precious life that God has given me. My experience with Fleetwood Mac was so disheartening and even sickening that I vowed then and there that I would never work with people in that field again if it meant that I had to deal with people like that. But here's the thing. In hindsight, I'm grateful for that experience. If not for Fleetwood Mac, who knows what I might be doing today. I might never have gone on to do the things that I've been able to do with my life, things that I know now are infinitely more rewarding and fulfilling and satisfying. But at the time, I had this internal struggle raging inside of me, and it was no fun, I will tell you that. I wanted so badly to work in the concert business, but I was also beginning to see that doing so would mean at the very least that I would just have to look the other way sometimes. It would mean having to condone and accept as okay the kinds of activities and behaviors that I was taught to, as a child, to abhor. It was a huge moral dilemma for me. Could I be a person of faith while building my future on a foundation which was literally glamorizing destructive and abusive behaviors for literally millions of people? Could I, in good conscience, honor my upbringing? Could I be my parents' child if it meant going against so many of the values that they ingrained in me so deeply? There was only one answer for me: no, I could not. So I abandoned that dream, and that was very, very hard. In the years following, I tried law enforcement, I tried baseball coaching, I tried college and healthcare administration. None of them seemed to fit as I searched for my place in life. And eventually my long and circuitous journey led me to ministry, and that's a story for another day. But suffice it to say that it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Who knows why sometimes we have to experience pain and heartache and devastation in order to wind up where we are. Not that God causes pain and suffering, because I don't believe that's true. But I do believe that God knows and has always known where it is that I was supposed to be. In retrospect, now I can look back and I can see how all the pieces fit together, some of them very painful. But even now I can say that I'm grateful for all of those pieces, especially for the Fleetwood Mac experience. If not for Fleetwood Mac, who knows? I remember sitting in church one time many years ago listening to a sermon about carrying your cross. Jesus said, "Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple." I remember getting stuck on that phrase. I didn't hear another word the pastor said the whole time. I was stuck on that phrase. What does that mean, to carry your cross? More importantly, what did it mean for me? I know now that it's an important question for all of us, whether you're 12 years old or 112 years old. Jesus asks you to carry your cross, to consider your life circumstances, to look at the direction you're heading, to consider your actions and attitudes, to weigh the costs of what you're doing, and then make choices that lead to life, not death, as the reading from Deuteronomy said today. Many people have come to me over the years saying, "Pastor, what should I do in this situation?" And they lay out some very convoluted and difficult situations, saying, "Pastor, what should I do? What should I do?" And I always say to them the same thing. My response is always this: what do you think and believe is the right thing to do? My observation is that the vast majority of people know how to answer that question. They know what is right. It's just that what's right isn't always the same thing as easy. Sometimes I think people are looking for permission to do the easy thing instead of the right thing. Jesus asks us to do the right thing, even if it's impossible or difficult. Let me say this. If you are being asked to compromise or sacrifice too much of who you sense God is calling you to be and what God is calling you to do, then you're probably not doing the right thing. That's what it means, I believe, to carry your cross. Do the right thing no matter the cost. The Old Testament book of Micah puts it this way: what does the Lord require of you? That you do what's right, that you love kindness, and that you walk humbly with God. That's it in a nutshell. And although it may not be easy, that's what God wants and expects of us if we're to be people of faith, or to be followers, to use Jesus' words in today's Fortunately, in my case, I've always been surrounded by people who supported me through life's difficult choices. I have a great family. I've always had wonderful church communities, solid friends, a very loving and faithful and forgiving and very persistent God, I might add. I've had a wife who's walked with me through so many challenges. What a gift it's been to have these things. Maybe you are that person for someone else. Did you ever think about that? Maybe you're the person who is the encourager and supporter of someone going through a difficult struggle. Don't ever underestimate the power and the impact and the importance of your words and actions toward another person, of being that person's source of strength and support. You never know when you're being that. Maybe you are even their pathway to life. On August 20th of 2013, just 6 years ago, a woman named Antoinette Tuff was working as a bookkeeper at the Ronald E. McNair Discovery Learning Academy in Decatur, Georgia, when a 20-year-old gunman stormed into the building with an AK-47 assault rifle and 500 rounds of ammunition. We've heard way too many of these stories, right, lately? 800 students were in school that day, along with more than 100 staff. Antoinette was already reeling from the fact that her husband of 33 years had just announced that he was leaving her for another woman. Now she was left alone to face the daunting challenge of raising a son with multiple disabilities. She had to juggle 3 jobs just to pay her bills, and now she was at wit's end saying, how am I ever going to do this? As she did every morning, she got up that morning at 5 o'clock to read her Bible. She then fed her 22-year-old disabled son breakfast, and she got him settled with a caregiver. Then she headed off to the first of her 3 jobs. She had no sooner sat down at her desk when she got a phone call from the bank telling her that her car was being repossessed unless she could come up with $15,000 immediately, which of course she couldn't do. So now, on top of everything else, she had to worry about how she was going to get to work each day. When I got that call, she said, that was the end of the rope. I was in tears, and I literally started screaming, God help me, God help me, God help me. Just then, the principal walked into the room and asked if she would sit in for the secretary while the secretary went on lunch break. Antoinette walked into the other room. She sat at the secretary's desk, and the next thing she knew, she had an AK-47 pointed in her face. The first thing that she thought was that, I'm going to die. And not only me, but hundreds of other people are going to die today. Just then a noise in the room, a sudden noise, startled the gunman, and he shot a bullet right past Antoinette's face, and it ricocheted around the room. In Antoinette's own words, I'm sitting there literally watching him unfold mentally. He starts spraying bullets everywhere, loading up magazines, loading bullets in his pockets. I was screaming and terrified on the inside. She knew that she had to do something, but what is she going to do? She wasn't a particularly violent or physical person, not at all. So she knew it would have to be through words, and she knew that her words would have to be extremely powerful. So she started praying. God, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do next? What do I say? How do I say it? Then she remembered this. She said, one thing God says is to love thy neighbor. God doesn't say, love thy neighbor because this or because that. God just says, love thy neighbor. So my job right now, she thought to herself, is not to pass judgment. It's not to get angry. It's not to be frustrated. It's not to come unraveled. It's not to be mad. My job is just to tend to this young man who's hurting, and he needs to be loved. Can you imagine that? The gunman just then ordered her to call 911 and announced that he was going to start shooting people. So she dialed, and as she dialed, she started talking to the gunman. She said that every word that came out of my mouth could be life or death, she said later. She said, not only for me and the gunman, but for everybody in that building. I had to make sure that everything I said was what I heard God tell me to say. What she actually said, you can hear on the 911 recording. You can go home on the internet today and look up the 911 recording of this experience. Here's what she said. It's going to be all right, sweetie. I just want you to know that I love you, okay? I'm proud of you. We all go through something in life. You don't want that. You're going to be okay. Later, after she listened back to the 911 recording and how calm she was, she said she didn't even recognize her own voice. She said, I knew it was God that guided me through that day, and in the end, not a single person was hurt, including the gunner, thanks to Antoinette Tuff. As a child, Antoinette Tuff used to sit in church and ask her mother, do we have to come here? It's boring. Can't we just stay home like my friends? Week after week, though, and year after year, her mother faithfully took her to church despite Antoinette's objections. Little did Antoinette know that the things she heard and experienced in church over those years would one day be a valuable piece of the puzzle that would help her know what to do when that life or death moment came, and she literally saved hundreds of lives. None of us knows when a moment like that might come. Hopefully none of us will ever have to face an AK-47 in the face. That day, though, it became very real for Antoinette Tuff. And somehow in that moment she found an inner peace that she didn't even know that she had. Did God put me there in that position, she asked herself, because God knew I would be able to handle it maybe better than someone else? To this day, she is still asking herself that question. Counting the cost, carrying your cross. Pope Francis once said, the cross is more than just pretty jewelry. It's a call to love. Antoinette Tuff embodies the Pope's words. A few days ago, someone tearfully told me, Pastor, I'm not sure why I'm still here. What could God possibly have left for me to do? I told that person what I've said to so many others over the years. We all have a purpose in life. Maybe it's not so apparent to you right now, but it is to God. For now, your job is to carry your cross. Your job is to prepare for whatever challenges and changes and opportunities life may unexpectedly throw at you, and most of all, your job is to love when you get the opportunity. Today we're reminded that we are called to carry our cross and count the cost daily. One day we may discover that the big moments that matter most are shaped and influenced by the small decisions we made along the way. Times when we didn't even recognize how the choices we were making in that moment, simple and easy as they might have been, would be that important and life-changing. It wasn't easy to leave Fleetwood Mac behind many years ago. But it sure did change me. It sure did open the door for a life more infinitely rewarding and satisfying than I could ever have imagined. On those days when you are faced with difficult decisions and dilemmas and choices, in fact, in all of your days, may God strengthen you for the challenge. May you sense the guiding and loving presence of God, and may you be given the wisdom to discern those choices that lead to life, not death. Amen. Hymn number 574.